Welcome to the video. How does the quality look? This is the most budget-friendly setup for your YouTube studio that I can think of. It includes the Sony ZV-1 first generation, the Sony ECM-G1 shotgun microphone with no wires, a small rig L bracket cage, a Ulanzi MT16 tripod, a SanDisk memory card. 256 is pretty expensive, it'll put you over that $1,000. A UB size ring light, and just a basic table lamp right there. I put all these items onto my Amazon account, and I found that you can pretty much get it to be right under $1,000 as long as you kind of massage things. So if you go out and you add in the 256 gigabyte version, the Pneumoma battery pack with batteries included, if you get one or two of these, if you get a couple of microphones, you're going to exceed that $1,000 pretty fast. For the most part, you'd be able to figure out by adding and subtracting certain items, you'll be able to keep it under $1,000. So right now in my cart, I currently have a SanDisk 64 gigabyte Extreme Pro SD card, the Sony ZV-1 with the ECM-G1, which it actually comes in a kit right there. I have the Pneumoma replacement battery. It's a battery pack and it has 3 batteries, and I'm using this battery right now. It seems pretty good. I typically like to use the regular Sony batteries like this, but these batteries are totally fine. A video conference lighting ring light for $22, and the Ulanzi MT16 extendable mini tripod. That's exactly what I'm using right now. So subtotal is $898, and if we go ahead and proceed to checkout, we can see that it is $978. So for $978, this is your setup. And how does it look? We get a little bit of a background blur. We can hit that button for the ZV-1. It's clear. Now it's blurry. It's not a crazy background blur. This ain't no full frame camera like this where you're going to get an insane amount of background blur. But the audio is clear. It does have that product showcase mode, which a bit gimmicky, but you don't have to hide your face like that. And overall, you're going to get a pretty good picture, a much better picture than if you were just to use your smartphone like this. Because the smartphones, sometimes they make things look a little bit weird. This is a 1-inch sensor. It's going to do a lot better in a low light situation such as this than a smartphone is. You can also connect better microphones much easier on a camera like this than you can with a smartphone. All right, so I'm just going to show you right now. We've got the ZV-1 first generation ECM-G1 microphone. I've got this small rig L bracket. Now I did not put this small rig L bracket in the Amazon cart because I believe it's going to push it just over that $1,000 mark. But this one's nice because on the ZV-1 Mark I, you can't do that. You can't open the battery door and the SD card slot door if you have a tripod included. So I particularly like to have the small rig L cage, the small rig L bracket rather, and I do like that it has that wooden finish. And then the Ulanzi MT16 tripod. It's extended all the way, and we'll do a natural zoom all the way out, and there it is. So we've got the lamp. You probably always have a lamp somewhere in your apartment or in your house. The ring light, 25 bucks, and then there's your camera setup. That is also very important. You see those clouds? You see that window? There's a window right there. So that's going to be really good and really important if you're filming content like this. Lights work. You don't need an insane amount of audio equipment. Just everything you see is right here. Not too bad, right? We could even open this blind right here. Now I have some good light coming in from here. I can move this around. I can move it like that. It's just so lightweight, and the quality you're getting for sub $1,000 is really good. The good thing about this setup is it's so lightweight, you are going to be able to pick it up very easily and move it around your house. And if it falls over, it's not the end of the world because it's not a $2,500 full frame setup like this. Whereas if this falls over and breaks, a lot more expensive to repair than this camera setup right here. Now, that shotgun microphone, it's got no wires. A shotgun microphone like this, Rode Video Micro 2 and the Rode Video Micro first generation, this is $50, this is $80, this one's $150. But this one, you just slide it right in. You don't have to worry about any wires like this. Let me show you with the more expensive shotgun microphone. I'll show you in the ZV-E one. You see how the Sony cameras have that little hot shoe right there? And you see the bottom of the microphones? They just slide right in. And there you go. You don't have to worry about your cable coming unplugged. You don't have to worry about it bouncing around. And I was filming a while ago with this microphone on my full frame camera. When it moves around in the wind, you can hear that interference. And I think it has to do with the cable because I've never heard it on this one. But let's do some tests. So right now we are actually sitting about fully arm's length. So is that 2 or 3 feet? How does it sound? Let's see. How does the ECM G1 sound? $150 microphone. If we get up close and personal, probably sounds better. Look at that. I have a tape measure right there. 5 feet away from the camera. So you're probably going to get some sort of echo or something like that. It's probably not going to sound as good as when I'm nice up and close. But overall, how does it sound? I don't know if you would film like this anyway. Any shotgun microphone, even the big expensive one I showed you before, is probably not going to do the greatest like this. You're probably better off using a lapel microphone or a wireless setup anyway. But let's just test and see how this ECM G1 is going to do in this situation. All right, lights back on. Now, one thing we're also going to do is we're going to test it out with this microphone and this microphone. So if you go with this microphone, the Rode Video Micro 2, you're going to save about $70 or $80 off this entire setup, and maybe you can get more batteries, maybe you can just get more other accessories, maybe some cables, or maybe a nice camera strap. So if you do opt for one of the wired microphones, you are going to be able to use some of that other money in that budget to put it towards something else. So let's see. 3, 2. All right, Rode Video Micro 2. This is the ECM G1, little baby microphone we were using before. It's so cute, so nice, so cute. How does this sound? Probably sounds a bit better than this one, but because this one does have the edge when you're actually walking around outside, and because I'm actually someone that I do vlog, you've seen my vlogs, I do walk around Manhattan and New York City and Queens. I do go out there, I do take my camera out, and I do actually vlog. So I would always prefer something like this, just so I don't have to worry about cables. But this is a great budget option if you just want to get started. I would definitely get this one first, and if I wanted a better microphone for indoors for the studio setup, I would get the Rode Video Micro 2. You could even go with the Rode Video Micro first generation. This one is $49. So this is the Rode Video Micro 2. What we're going to do is we're going to actually test out the Micro 1 in a minute. And now this is the Rode Video Micro 1. So you can kind of be the judge. Is it worth spending $50 or is it worth spending $80 on something like this? Me, I would go with the Video Micro 2 just because you're only spending $30 more, and it's a much smaller setup. You don't have that big of a windscreen. Well, you do, but you can also put this windscreen on, and you can also, it's shorter overall. And one good thing about these wired microphones that you can't do with the wired microphone, with the wireless microphone, is you could actually boom it to the point where now the microphone is pretty much right here. It's almost like it's not as far away from me. I can make the microphone much closer if I have a longer wire. So this is what it sounds like if it's just sitting on top of the camera. This is what it sounds like if I actually boom it closer. Now you can be the judge, which is why this is probably a better studio microphone than the ECM G1. And as an added bonus, this is the onboard audio on the Sony ZV-1 Mark I. I don't think it sounds very good at all. It only sounds good if you're walking outside, maybe down a street that's not loud at all. As soon as there's a lot of background noise, as soon as there's a lot of echo like there is in this little room/studio, it's not going to sound that good. The only good thing about this microphone with the internal audio is they do give you the windscreen that looks similar to this, so if it's a super windy day, it's going to omit a lot of that wind. However, I'd always recommend stepping up to the ECM G1 just because there's no wires, there's no cables, and actually all this stuff is linked below. They actually come with a package. The ZV-1 with this microphone comes together now. You can buy it in a package and it's going to cost you $800. I would at least start there and then take your time to maybe get the small rig cage later. Maybe get a much cheaper tripod. This is a much smaller tripod, but it's still pretty nice. Just doesn't extend as high, so you're not going to be able to use it on a desk. You're going to have to prop it up on something. Maybe you can hold off on getting some batteries. Maybe you could hold off on getting the ring light. I would say the ZV-1 and the ECM G1 and a 64 gigabyte SD card, those are the essentials, and then at least add a tripod as well. And then as time goes on, you can get the small rig cage. So I'm going to play a clip from one of my LIC vlogs a few weeks ago, just so you can see what you're getting if you just use this camera with handheld, no tripod, just the camera and the ECM G1, no active stabilization. Check it out. All right, we are recording. We've got the Sony ECM G1, the smaller one, $150 microphone attached to the top. There are no cables. I glued on the wind muffler because it kept falling off. But how does this sound in a super windy environment? All right, so what'd you think? Video's not super smooth. It's not like GoPro stabilization. It's not like smartphone stabilization either. However, you do get a nice background blur, and that audio is nice and clear, especially on a windy day. Also, Don't know if you can tell, but I am not filming on the ZV-1 Mark I anymore. I'm now on the Sony ZV-E1, and I'm just on an f4 lens, but I'm using the same microphone, and you could see I'm at like 23, 24 millimeter trying to get the same shot just to see if you could see a big difference. Now, once you start turning off lights, there's going to be a much bigger difference in low light because this sensor is just so much bigger. This is a full frame sensor than the sensor in the ZV-1. This is a 1-inch sensor. But this one's going to cost you 3 times as much as this one. And this setup's also going to be a lot bigger and bulkier and heavier than this one. Not as easy for a beginner and not as easy if you're on a budget. So if I didn't have any cameras and I was on a very, very, very strict budget, I would invest in this system, and this would pretty much be my studio system. I would just make sure I'd use the lights in the room. I would use the lights like some sort of a desk lamp. I would use windows. I've got some windows open. And overall, it's going to look really good, especially if you're on a budget and if you're not doing this stuff full time, or maybe you're just doing it as a hobby. The ZV-1 Mark I with these accessories definitely going to do the job pretty well for you. Now, I don't know if you could tell, but I did just switch back to the ZV-1 Mark I in that clip. Here's the ZV-E1 just to prove it to you. Now, a couple of things to consider. I would recommend getting some external batteries, or some extra batteries rather, with a charging case like this. This one's really good. The battery's been doing really well. It's been filming for about 15 minutes and it's at 75% right now, so overall not too bad. The battery life in this camera is not really that great anyway. I actually have about 6 extra batteries for this camera just so that I know I'm covered, I don't have to worry about it. It's super easy to swap these batteries out. Another nice thing about the new MoMA is you can charge it with USB-C. You don't have to worry about that pesky micro USB that the ZV-1 first generation has in it. Also, this camera does have active stabilization, and it is actually really good stabilization. I'd say it's unusable because it crops in way too tight. You gotta hold your whole arm all the way extended. You gotta use the selfie stick, the tripod. It gets real old, real fast. The standard stabilization is a bit shaky, but in my opinion, it looks fine. It actually looks kind of nice that it's imperfect. I appreciate the imperfections. This is not Hollywood, this is YouTube. And if you're gonna use a small rig cage, definitely carry around an Allen key with you and tighten it up for a while. This cage has gotten loose on me before, and then the camera just starts shaking back and forth, and that's just never good. I'd also recommend, if you're going to be walking around vlogging, definitely get a wrist strap like this. This is a nice cheap one on Amazon. Again, links to all this stuff in the description below. This one, you could just clip it on, clip it off. It's nice. I pretty much just hold it around one of my fingers. That way, if I do drop the camera, it doesn't fall and I don't break that screen. It's not a heavy camera. The screen's probably not going to break. It's also not an expensive camera, so it's probably going to be pretty cheap to replace. It's pretty robust. However, you can't be too careful. It's always a good idea to invest in a wrist strap. So I hope you realize that you don't need to spend thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars on a nice full frame camera just to get into this and just to start making some videos. For under $1,000, you can get a really nice setup that can do really well in most situations. Now, it's not going to be the most smooth footage, like I said. It's not going to be as good in low light, but it is going to perform better in low light than your phone. So, Amazon links below. Check them out if you want them. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had fun, and I hope you learned something. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and I'll see you next time.